Thank you for watching. You can find us at thewisdominvestor.com. We're on the banks of the Columbia River in the Pacific Northwest, looking across the river to Vancouver, Washington. We're actually standing in Oregon right now, looking at Vancouver, Washington, not to be confused with Vancouver, BC. We're going to be taking a look at the history of Vancouver. Business at Vancouver, the high-tech business is booming. We're also going to take a look at recreation and where people live in Vancouver, Washington. So we're going to be crossing this bridge here, the I-5 bridge. We're going to go across and we're going to be taking a look at some of the historical sites along with various other areas of interest in Vancouver, Washington. We're panning over the Columbia River here in the Pacific Northwest. You may or may not be able to see the Mount Hood in the background there. It's maybe blending in with the sky, but we're looking at Vancouver, Washington. We're going to go across the bridge and move on over to Vancouver, Washington. Our first stop here today at Wisdom Investor Travels is the Fort Vancouver historical site. This was one of the first sites to be settled between San Francisco and Alaska on the west coast. Okay, so we're at the gates of Fort Vancouver, one of the first sites to be settled on the Pacific coast. This is where settlers came in. There was a company by the name of Hudson Bay, and they were a trapping company, and they made this their home right here. George Vancouver discovered this area, and he's also named after Vancouver, BC, on the British Columbia. And this site here was not only a fort, but they in the background here is a area where they prepared all their food and along with the other activities that they had to take care of. So we're walking along the stockade fence here that's still constructed here at Fort Vancouver. This was established in 1830. The town of Vancouver, Washington, was actually incorporated around 1875. So here's an area where they used to protect themselves. Had some cannons up in those in the windows here on this turret. So Fort Vancouver was the originating site of Vancouver, Washington. In 1830, the U.S. military came on site here at Fort Vancouver and established residency for the U.S. military. This is the Fort Vancouver National Site Artillery Barracks. This is the artillery barracks that was set up to help protect the settlers that were coming out here and coming west, needed protection, and so this is the barracks that established the artillery barracks. There was other barracks also set up to house the many soldiers that manned the base here at Fort Vancouver in the early 1900s. So these barracks are still here, but they're non-functioning at this time. Right now, this site is considered a historical site. This is the Grant House. These are officer quarters for the officers that stayed here. Ulysses S. Grant, President of the United States, was stationed here in the U.S. Army, and he stayed on the site here at Fort Vancouver. So this is what you call Officers' Row, where all the officers stayed when they did their term in Vancouver, Washington. Vancouver, Washington was incorporated in 1875. In the 1890s, the town became alive, and many of these buildings were updated, and the original buildings that we're looking at here right now. This was a high-rise back in the days. It was called the Heritage Building. So we're looking at what was once considered a high-rise back in the 1890s. A lot of the original structures, as we said, are still here, but they're slowly being replaced as time moves by. Again, we're looking at another building that was back in the 1890s. Many of the older structures have been replaced with newer and more advanced buildings, as we're looking at a couple of the newer buildings here in Vancouver, Washington. And we're looking down Main Street here. This was a thriving life here at one time. Now the malls have been developed, and high-tech industry developed new buildings, and it's moved out of the downtown area. And of course now newer and more modern buildings are in the landscape in Vancouver, Washington. In the very heart of Vancouver, we have the Esther Short Park. All types of activities go on here. Have a hotel, convention center next door. So here in Esther Short Park, the summers are just booming with people here. We have a little stage over here where there are all types of activities. They hold the Saturday market down here. You can see the beautiful cedar trees here sprawling about 150, 200 feet high. So there's the stage where we have all types of activities in the summer. And then we also hold a Saturday market here with all kinds of fruit. So Chuck's Produce is one of our favorite restaurants here in Vancouver, Washington. We're looking at some of the homes that are available in styles here in Vancouver, Washington. There's all types of homes that a person can get here. You may want to view property, so you can get a home on a hillside or side of a mountain. Again, we said the elevation was up to 4,500 feet. That's at the top of Silver Star Mountain. Or maybe you want an acreage out in the country. They're available. Apartments are available. Townhomes, condominiums, just about whatever you want. Close to the schools. So we're going through a area subdivision here in the Vancouver area, just kind of showing a particular home style that's available in this area. Homes on the West Coast are generally speaking more expensive than other areas. Now here in the Northwest, Seattle is the most expensive. You got Portland, Oregon, that's expensive. Vancouver is the least expensive of any home along the Pacific Coast and also the Northwest. So there's definitely lots of opportunity for purchasing a home in the Vancouver area. You have a lot of people move from California to Vancouver, or move from Oregon or various other areas because they like the area, and it's relatively inexpensive compared to other areas. We're going to take a look at some recreation areas here in the Vancouver area and talk a little bit about the recreation in the area say within 150 miles. Okay, we're over here at the Burnt Bridge Creek Greenway. It's a great hiking trail that goes across Vancouver. We're going to talk a little bit about recreation here in the area in just a moment. But looking at the Greenway, we're way out on this side of town. This trail goes all the way across town here and ends back on towards freeway there, 205. So it covers about half of the town, and it's a great hiking trail for those who like hiking. So we're going to get started on this trail, and we'll talk a little bit about recreation in Vancouver. Okay, we're down on the Burnt Bridge Creek Trail Greenway, and this water comes from not Fort Vancouver, but Vancouver Lake, which there's a inlet just underneath the road over here. So water flows out to this area. So this is a paved trail, and makes it nice. You can actually ride your bike all the way. It goes across halfway across town, and really nice trail that gets some good exercise or just walking. We're talking about recreation. We started out the video on the Columbia River, and there's all types of boating a person can do on the Columbia River, wave runners, sailing. There's skiing that goes on the river in some nice secluded areas. We also have some you can get out towards the mountains. And how's everything going?
All right,
How you like this trail?
I love it.
I'm doing a little video here. Just
30 years. So.
What's that?
It's the first time I've been back in over 30 years.
And where were you?
I was just down in Portland, but
living.
I hadn't come up here yet.
Okay, so how far do you go on this trail?
I only went a half mile down.
Half a mile. So. Okay, great. So
it's her first time too. So
okay,
she's loving
okay,
it.
you got your dog here. Okay, well, great. Okay, thanks a lot.
Day.
Okay, on the Columbia River, you can, if you go out to the, maybe about 50 miles out to the east, you get into where they have parasailing. They have a lot of wind out in that area, and a lot of folks take advantage of that. So other recreational items, you can go out to Mount Hood if you like snow skiing. That's about an hour and a half away. You can go to the beach if you like beach activities. That's about just a little over an hour away. If you want to go north, you can go Mount Rainier, hiking, some great trails of hiking in Mount Rainier. You got Mount St. Helens, not probably about an hour away. You have to the south and southeast, out in the Bend area, there's all types of high desert activities that go on there. So there's lots of activities in town. You got tennis, you got indoor tennis, you've got various athletic clubs that you can get involved with. So it's a great place to have all types of outside activities. Okay, that's going to conclude our video here. Again, this is Wisdom Investor Travels. You can find us at wisdominvestor.com.